For months, I struggled in progressing with my front lever because of my bad form, and there were a few reasons why. So in this video, I'll address all the problems I experienced and how to fix them, so that you can start finally making progress in this skill. I won't waste your time, so let's begin. So my first reason for my bad form, and therefore slow progress as well, was that I kept trying to rush the process. Wanting to progress quickly isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for me it was a problem because I focused on actually getting the skill fast, as opposed to even unlocking the skill properly in the first place. For example, I constantly tried to do full attempts of the front lever, with no regard for energy levels or form or activation and all that kind of stuff. And I remember at one point I tried a straddle front lever, and it felt so hard. And even then I carried on doing the full front lever because of my ego, as well as wanting to progress fast. Instead I should have focused on progressions and band work, and when I did finally start doing that, I saw results. So ironically, when I stopped rushing my progress actually became much faster. The second reason was that I actually didn't know what I was doing wrong. For me, the main problem was sagging hips, as you can see in this clip over here. As I mentioned in the previous point, I was rushing my progress, and as a result that meant I didn't stop to think about why this was the issue. I'll put some of the most common front lever mistakes on the screen and how to fix them. Eventually I realized that most front lever issues either come down to strength or technique, so I started testing both. So as I mentioned, one of my problems was sagging hips. So to test my strength, I did a straddle front lever hold, and here is how my form looked like. So that to me suggested that I had a strength limitation. So my solution was just to use bands in the full front lever progression, or you could just do straddle front lever progressions. At the same time, I looked at technique. The coach I was working with at that time told me that the main issue was that I wasn't activating my core and glutes properly. After building that strength that I needed, I immediately saw an improvement in my body position. These two experiments helped me to narrow down why the issue was happening in the first place. I personally needed to work on both strength and technique. However, it's worth noting that sometimes only one of these might be the limiting factor. This one's a bit more specific, but it could still apply to you, and that is setup issues. For example, imagine you're training a front lever on a really low bar. To get into the front lever using that kind of bar, you have to go from a standing position and go all the way down into the front lever. This in itself wastes so much energy that by the time you enter the front lever, you'll be exhausted and you probably won't have the strength to actually use good form. Another common issue may be the way you use resistance bands. If you have been using your bands where the hamstrings are as opposed to where the lower back is, like in this video I'm showing you here, which isn't natural to the actual front lever itself. In fact, you might actually be doing it right but tightening the band way too much. I remember using a 10-pound resistance band for my front lever holds. Even though the band itself was fairly light, I wrapped it so tightly around the bar that it was assisting me way more than 10 pounds. As a result, I thought I was training way closer to body weight than I actually was. When I eventually removed the band, this created a much bigger jump in difficulty, and my form immediately broke down because I simply wasn't strong enough for the full body weight variation. Small details like bar height, entry method, or band placement can dramatically change your front lever. So check your equipment and see if there's anything giving you a disadvantage when you do a front lever. But that's basically it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment and I'll try my best to answer.